PFC, William Smith, United States Marine Corps, Vietnam. William Smith and I met for the first time yesterday. He left California yesterday morning. I interviewed him last night here in my home studio here in Colorado. We had a wonderful time. It was just amazing, just welcoming this Marine into my home. And he's 77 now. He was 17 back in 1963, folks, when he enlisted in the Marine Corps before Vietnam was even heard about. And spent a year in the Corps, and then 1965, at the age of 19, he went to Vietnam and spent 13 months there. He was with 2nd Battalion, 9th Marines, and he fought 3 months on a line company with Echo Company. He worked in communications and just has a really unique story and perspective of Vietnam. And I'm so glad, William, thank you for opening your heart and coming into my home and telling me your story. I was just very touched, folks, and I think you will be too. It was a nice hour interview. It was over an hour we spent talking, and he shared some thoughts, and he said something that really touched my heart. He says the best part of him never came home from Vietnam. And when he came home, his family didn't know him. His personality was different, and over the years he suffered with PTSD like a lot of Vietnam vets or anybody that goes through a traumatic event. But it's good for him to talk about it, and I want him to share it with you today. I want to thank Brandon Glidden. Brandon wanted to sponsor Vietnam Story. Brandon, here's your story. It's a great one. And thank you, Brandon, for your support of my work. You know I appreciate it. And thank you for your service in the Army and serving our country. So God bless you, Brandon. Thank you. Okay, folks, if you'd like to sponsor a story like Brandon has, there's information in the video description of this video. I say it over and over again. I don't monetize my videos. There's no commercials here, folks. We're hearing these things for the first time on this station and on my radio station, and it's you, the listeners and the viewers, who make it possible. If you'd like to donate to my work, there's information in the comments section of this video. It'll be great to hear from you, folks. If you're being blessed by these videos, I'd encourage you to do so. William Smith, right here on the Voices of History YouTube channel, and playing 24 hours a day on my Voices of History radio channel, now being tuned in over 40 countries across the world. I invite you to switch on over to the Voice of History Radio. You can download the apps free on either app store. Let's get this in the hands of our kids, folks. This is why we have our freedoms. William said in his interview that he was born in a free country. So was I. So were you. We need to learn to appreciate what we have and the price for our freedoms, folks. I think we're fighting for our same freedoms today in our own country that our veterans fought for on foreign soil. So let's keep this thing going. Subscribe to this channel. Share this video. And I'm so happy to bring to you today William Smith, Vietnam. God bless you. Now, buddy.
How many?
20 years.
I knew it was a long time.
I started in 2000.
How many guys have you counted?
Over 1,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't seen all of them. I've seen a few.
Yeah, okay. First of all, just tell me how old you are today.
77.
Okay, how old were you when you went to Vietnam? Or when you entered the Marines? How old
17.
were you? 17. And MCRD? Boot camp?
Yeah.
Do you remember your first day boot camp?
Huh. Are you kidding?
Did you have to put your feet on the yellow footprints?
Yeah, I remember all of it.
What year was that?
1963, October 6th.
You went through boot camp in '63. That's before Vietnam, really.
Yes.
So was there any talk about Vietnam on the horizon when you...
Nothing.
Nothing. Nothing.
We didn't even hear the word Vietnam till maybe a month before we went.
So, okay, a month before you went. What year did you go to Vietnam?
65. We started it. We were in the 2nd Battalion to go into the country.
Yeah, give me the breakdown. 2nd Battalion was the 5th Marines. Give me the whole
2nd Battalion, 9th Marines.
Echo Company.
Well, Echo Company is a line company.
Mm-hmm.
I was basically attached to H&S Company, and then they would assign us to the line company. We rotated. Originally, there were 14 of us, and it got down to 3. Mm-hmm. And so they would send, there's 4 line companies, so we rotated 3 months at a time. We'd go out and we'd take care of their night communications and anything they needed wherever they were, and then the rest of the time we just were like a bodyguard for the captain.
So let's go back. Before you went to Vietnam, you go through boot camp, advanced training. You've been in the Corps for over a year. How did you hear about Vietnam, and were you prepared when you went over there?
You know, we really were prepared as a fighting unit because all we did was practice. Operations, amphibious assaults, land on the beach, come storming in, you know, occupy, take the hills. We did all that stuff. So we were experienced. And I don't know how many operations we went on at Camp Pendleton, but a lot. Mm-hmm. And it would be 2 weeks at a time. We'd be in the field. And so we knew how to do our job. Everybody, we'd been together as a unit for 2 years. So we heard about Vietnam, maybe all of a sudden somebody came in. We were getting ready to rotate overseas because you do a year in the States and then you go overseas for a year to Okinawa and then you come back. That was routine. And it was about time for us to go to Okinawa when they came in and said, we're going to be only staying there temporarily, and then we're going into Vietnam, you know, to assist South Vietnam. It's the reason we went there. They wanted us to help them save their democracy. And that's why we went there. So we're all, we'll be back in 2 weeks. Yeah, sure. You know, we're going to go kick their ass, and it'll be over, and we'll be home. It'll be done. You know, we were very confident. We thought we were that good.
When did you graduate from high school? And
1963.
Where?
Longmont, Colorado.
That's where you're going. Okay. So 63, out of high school, you're a kid. You go into the Marines. You enlist and go into the Marines. A year later or so, what month did you go to Vietnam? Do you remember, 65?
I think it was May or June.
Okay.
I don't remember exactly when we went into the country.
Tell me what you experienced when you got there, whether it was getting off of a plane or a boat. What do you remember?
We went overseas on a ship. I took 2 battalions on one ship. And I think there were like 4,000 of us. I don't remember, but maybe 2,000 plus. Each battalion's like 1,200. So we went on the ship to Okinawa and we were there for 2 weeks. Then we went on another ship to Vietnam. And the war hadn't really started much yet. I mean, it was like, we were just getting into, we had the Da Nang Air Base and we were going to go there first and set up a perimeter and just guard the base. And that was how we were going to start. So they had us do an amphibious landing. And we're all like nervous when we're going to war. And they gave us bullets and grenades and all that stuff that you never got to have. And now it's for real. And we're getting on landing craft. and we're going to go do an amphibious assault on the beach. And we're all saying goodbye to each other. Like, well, this is probably it, you know. So we get there and the door drops down and we all go charging out. And here's those crowds of people watching us. Like it was a show. And we're like, what the hell is this? And then there's this line of buses. And we all went and got on the buses and took us to the airbase. That's how it started. We had our first casualty that night. One of my boot camp friends, friendly fire, went on a patrol and came back in the wrong place. The guy was so afraid being out there the first night, somebody walked up on his foxhole, he just opened up on him. He didn't even say halt, who is it? He got right up on him, and the guy came back in the wrong place. Inexperienced. Nobody knew what they were doing. He was just out there. He was out on a patrol, patrolling the outer areas of Da Nang Air Base. That's how it started.
So you're with the Marines, the 2nd Battalion. Did you ever go out on patrol, or were you back with the communications, or what?
No, I spent 3 months with a line company, with Echo Company. And during that 3 months, I went on operations. I went wherever they went. I was basically, during the day, just another grunt. And at night, I did my jobs, communications, to set up a phone system around our perimeter at night. Then in the morning, we'd move out. I'd roll it all up and take it with me. And wherever we went the next night, do it all over again. And if we got hit during the day, I was in the middle of it.
3 months with the line.
3 months with the line company.
So were you fighting the North Vietnamese Army, the
Both.
Viet Cong?
So mostly Viet Cong in the beginning, and then some of the operations we went on, we actually got involved with NVA.
Do you remember the Air Mobile Division in Vietnam, the helicopters?
No.
You weren't around that?
No, we rode helicopters all the time. I didn't really pay much attention. It was the old-fashioned helicopter, not a Huey. I knew what a Huey was. They were basically medevacs, but we were on the older ones that we'd pile in and they'd take us somewhere and we'd jump out. And that's about all I remember about the helicopters.
So you're in South Vietnam, and where are you geographically now?
Started in Da Nang.
Okay.
Ended up 18 miles south of there. I couldn't tell you the name of the villages.
But you're one of the first ones in Vietnam. I mean, 65, 66.
My battalion was the 2nd battalion to go into the country. In fact, in the beginning, we weren't even allowed to return fire without permission from the colonel. We got ambushed. We had to get permission to shoot back because the war hadn't officially started.
Now, were you an RTO, a radio operator, or you were behind with communications?
Pardon me?
Were you an RTO, a radio operator?
I was wireman.
Okay.
That's basically a telephone, but it's field wire. It's not telephone like you know here in the country. Yeah. It's a totally different phone system.
Well, Vietnam obviously changed you and a lot of people. So you're there, you're young, you're 18, maybe 18 to 19?
I was 19.
Okay. And are you homesick? Are you thinking about home? Or?
All I wanted to do is come home the whole time.
Did you get letters over there?
I was writing letters to 19 girls. Some of them I never met. Just wanted to pen pal me. Some of them were people that are ex-girlfriends. Some of them were just relatives. But yeah, I wrote letters all the time and got letters all the time. That was something you look forward to.
Right, right. What do you think, William, was the hardest thing for you in Vietnam? Was there a particular task or something you saw, or a particular skirmish? What was the most difficult part of Vietnam for you?
First day of Operation Harvest Moon. We got nailed. There were 2 companies of us were hilla lifted. Let me back up. We started the day before with our briefing. And they had a map up that showed all these different outfits of North Vietnamese and Viet Cong companies. And there were over 10,000 surrounding this area. And then they point to the center, and this is where we're going to drop you. Right in the middle. I knew, I said, what? Are you out of your mind? We were going to get annihilated. You know, what are you thinking? You know, put us in there. It didn't make sense to me. So I wrote a letter to my mom to say goodbye. Told her all the things I hadn't, that I wished I would have. Gave it to my buddy who wasn't going out with us. Said, when I don't come back, I want you to mail this. That was the start of it. The next day we got in the helicopters. They took us to an LZ. And the helicopters actually took our 3rd platoon to the wrong LZ, so we were missing one of our platoons. It was on a hill, both companies, so we marched down this hill, and there was a stream at the bottom, and we had to wade through it. It was maybe chest deep. And then on the other side, the hill rolled up, and it was lined with foliage and trees. And we went through that and busted out into a rice paddy. Just a big open rice paddy field. And on this side of the rice paddy was a village. And on this side of the rice paddy was a village. And then directly in front of us was a row of hills. And we knew they were dug in on the hills, and that was our objective. We were going to assault those hills like Iwo Jima, like just, we were just going to take it. So when we went down, the other company was supposed to split and sweep through these 2 villages. Well, miscommunications, they thought we were going to split. So they marched ahead of us, went past the 2 villages. They're out we're in the middle of rice paddies, flat, nothing, not even a tree. And then all hell broke loose. We got pinned down from both villages and the ridge of hills, and we were pinned down in that 2 companies for 4 hours. You couldn't lift. I was laying in the water so low I could just barely get air in my nostrils. And you can't even imagine the amount of bullets flying over it. And if you've ever heard a bullet go by you, it cracked like a firecracker. I mean, it was just solid bullets going everywhere. And I was just so low on the ground. I was nestled up to a dike, so I had some cover. And everybody was just exposed out in the middle. The other company took tremendous casualties. I think they lost 32 guys in that night. And, you know, they lost more than we lost 13 that night. And then we were just so pinned down, we couldn't even get up and go anywhere. I mean, it was just, would have been suicide to attempt it. And then the airstrikes caught this village on fire with napalm. So the whole village was one flame. And fire stopped from there. So we weren't getting shot at from that side. So now we're going to assault this village, and the other company is going to assault the hill. That was our communication. So we were still getting a lot of fire, but we were getting up 2 and 3 of us at a time, and, you know, making it over to the village. And before I had a chance to do that, they had a machine gun, the enemy, a machine gun nest at the edge of the village that was part of the heavy fire. A Huey came in and fired his rockets, and he nailed that thing, and he never pulled up. He went straight in. I'm seeing this stuff, and I'm like, wow, this is it. I'm not going to see another minute after today. This is it. I was convinced. There was no way out. I was the last guy after we just came up from where the stream was. There was nobody behind me. That's where our other platoon was supposed to be. You know, you have a formation where everybody is, so if they want you, they know where to find you. And that was my spot between 2nd Platoon and 3rd Platoon. And I was, you know, I was the last guy. I had my bayonet on. I was ready for him to come up over that ridge, and I was ready for hand-to-hand combat. And didn't happen. But our guys managed to get to the village, and me and another one of my friends, he was one of the airstrike radio guys, he and I were the last two to go. Basically, they left us there, and we didn't know it. And when we got across the rice paddy, running from a machine gun, which was a 50 caliber that was on the hill, who was trying to catch up to us, hitting in the water right behind us. And we're running knee deep in water and mud trying to get to cover. You don't want to get shot by a 50 caliber. I mean, I don't know if you know what it does, but the bullets are bigger than your thumb. I mean, it's like, so we got to the edge, and there's a big mound of dirt from when they dig out the rice paddies, they pile it in clumps. And we dove, and it saved us. And that's when we realized that we were by ourselves. And we didn't know where our guys went. And it's December, and it's getting dark. It's 5 o'clock. This is 4 hours. We started at noon. We'd been in that rice paddy for 4 hours. It seemed like 5 minutes. You know, it was just like a whiz. And then we're here. Now we don't know what to do because we're going to get captured. We don't find our guys. We're by ourselves. And I had the only rifle. The other guy was a radio guy. All he was armed with was a pistol. About that time, a corpsman came around the edge of the village with another wounded guy. And he was from the other company. And they had got separated also. And the wounded guy was the other company's wireman. And he was shot in the leg. And the corpsman was treating him and got left wherever they were. So now they're lost. So they're with us. And mind you, the other guy is wounded. He's not going to fight. The corpsman has a pistol. I'm still the only guy with a rifle. And then more guys came that were also from the other company, which was a 60 millimeter mortar team. And they got separated. But we all knew, there were 7 of us all together, they all knew we had to go somewhere. We couldn't stay there because it would just be a matter of time before they would come and take us, either kill us or capture us. So we started, it got dark, so we started finding our way through this village. And it was so dark that we couldn't see where we were going. We had to feel our way. And the bamboo grew up on both sides of the pathway, and we were feeling our way. And the wounded guy wouldn't shut up. He was in pain, and I had to threaten him. I told him, you gotta shut up or I'm gonna take you out myself. You're gonna get us all killed. And so he bit his bullet, and he did. But they heard us, and they ambushed us. They couldn't see us. They knew we were there. So we all get down. That's the first thing you do. We're all down, and bullets are hitting in the bamboo right above us. I mean, I don't know how many of them there were, but I could see their muzzle flashes. And when I saw their muzzle flashes, it dawned on me, you know what, if I can see their muzzle flashes, if I shoot back, they're going to see mine. They're going to know I'm one. I'm the only rifle. And if they know I'm only one, they're just going to come and take us. So I didn't shoot with my rifle. And so I told everybody, I says, okay, I'm going to take them out. I'm going to take them out with a grenade. But I'm throwing blind. So get ready. If I miss, it's coming back on us. So I pulled my pin, I got on my knees, and I threw it like a baseball. I threw it like a pitcher, straight down. I bounced it where my memory was where the muzzle flashes were starting from. I bounced that grenade right down there, and perfect. And the gunfire stopped. I don't know how long we waited after that, because that's where we had to go. If we were going to catch up to our guys, we had to continue until we caught up. So we eventually walked right through this area. And we couldn't see anything, mind you. I don't know if I killed anybody. I'm sure I did, but I mean, you don't survive a grenade. I mean, those grenades are bad. But we went through it, and we're shuffling along, and we got hit again, the same kind of a deal. I don't know how much further we went, maybe 100 yards, I don't know. We were going pretty slow, but so we all went down again. None of us got hit. And I told everybody, says, okay, get ready, I'm going to do the same thing. As it worked last time, we'll do it again. So, but get ready in case it comes back. So I had another perfect shot and it stopped the gunfire, and we got through it. And eventually, we walked out the other side of the village and ran into our own guys. And my first thing is, I'm upset. They left me back there. And they let me go through this. I was upset. And I'm going to start cussing each other out, like, what the hell? You know, what do you think? And all this and that. And they're like, what the? They're looking like, hey, what are you doing in the village? I was trying to catch you guys, of course. No, we're mad. I mean, you know, they said, no. We didn't go through the village. They circled the perimeter. And we didn't see where they went. They were on line on the backside of this village waiting for artillery to put illumination in the sky so they could sweep that village from the backside. And 3 minutes later, after I walked out, the artillery lit the sky up. And those guys went in there and annihilated that place. I mean, anything that moved. They didn't go down in the tunnels looking for them. They threw white phosphorus down there. White phosphorus is a chemical, it's a smoke grenade, but when it gets on you, when oxygen gets on it, it burns until you cut off the supply of oxygen. So if it gets on you, you're going to burn. And it's not going to stop because you can't put it out. So they would just throw the white phosphorus down in the hole and wait for them to come out. And then they take them out. You know, they just stand there, and as soon as they come out of the hole, they just pop, 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 pop. Anyway, we went through the village, we cleaned out anything that was moving, and came out, and then we were waiting. Then we joined the other company on the hill. They accomplished getting the hill, so we got up there with them. And when you beat them, they all leave. They try to take their wounded and dead with them. It's a moral thing that they were doing. Like, if we don't see we killed anybody, then we think we failed. So they would, like, not let us see that. But that night there was too many. You know, everything that night, I thought somebody said there were over 500 that we drag them all out, pile them all up, and helicopters come haul them away. And intelligence checks out who they are and where they're from and all that, what kind of people they are. They just wanted all the bodies, so they hauled them all away. I didn't have to get involved with that. I had different jobs, but our grunts did all that. But we're ready to move on to our next, where we're going next. But that day and that night changed me. Never been the same. I quit. I gave up. I didn't care. I didn't care if I got killed or shot. I said, just do it. I knew it was coming. So I just said, just do it. And that's how I was the rest of my tour. I had the attitude. Snipers would snipe at us, and I didn't care. And everybody else is hiding and stuff. And I'm going, what's the matter with you chicken shits? You know, I'm like, you know, laughing. But I didn't care. If I got shot, maybe they'll send me home. I wasn't going to shoot myself. A lot of guys did that. They'd shoot themselves in the leg or the foot so they'd get sent home. No, but if I got shot, I was fine. Just do it. But never the same.
Did you ever feel invincible as a young man over there? Like nothing could happen to you?
Yeah, I do now. Because I survived. I went through the whole 13 months. As I said, well, I did get a scratch, but it was a scratch. So I didn't do anything with it. The corpsman said, no, wait, you're going to write up your Purple Heart. I said, nah, not for this. I mean, you know, it's like, come on. We had an attitude, oh, Purple Hearts and a dime will get you a cup of coffee. We were like, we didn't care, you know, but now it's different. Oh, if you have it, it means something. But, you know, for me, what I did and how I did, I mean, I got cut. It fell and I cut myself. You know, it wasn't worthy, in my opinion.
Tell me about anybody, a friend or buddy that you helped, maybe that was wounded or people you knew died.
First of all, I only remember seeing one guy that was wounded. I have mental blocks, that I have, my memory's blocked. I can't remember seeing dead or wounded people except for the first one I saw. And after that, it's like I can't remember it. It's there, but I can't. I didn't remember that night going through that village for 20 years. I knew something happened, but I couldn't remember what till I went to therapy and got put in a form of hypnosis called REMD, and it came out. And I cried. I kind of knew, but it was sort of like a dream from the time we went in that village until we walked out the other side and got our own guys was blank. But I kind of knew, but I couldn't see it. And they brought that out. I don't remember shooting my rifle. I don't remember seeing the guys that were with me that were wounded. I remember one guy that was killed, that I went out after he got killed to complete the job that he wasn't able to do because he got killed trying to do it. I remember finding his little toe, and I remember picking it up, and the other guys would be, hey, look, here's Lee's little toe, you know? And like, you know, the biggest part of his boot we could find was a little piece of leather about this big. He stepped on a booby trap. And that's another bad story.
Mm-hmm. Well, we don't have.
That was supposed to be me.
Yeah. You obviously have a lot of guilt for surviving. I mean, isn't that common though in combat?
Well,
even with
that particular incident,
yeah.
I was going out to fix the cable. And I was a short timer. I had 2 weeks left. And this other guy, his name is Lee Albury. He told me, nah, Smitty, you ain't going out. Because it was a superstition we had when you're a short timer, that's when you'd get hit. So he says, I'm on switchboard, you take switchboard, I'm going to go out. I'll take the guys, I'll go out. I said, okay. So I went on the switchboard, took his place, and he went and got killed. So that's...
Are you what I'm gonna, I don't like the word religious, but do you have faith in God? Or did you back then?
I used to,
Back in
not
Vietnam?
anymore.
How about in Vietnam when you were there?
I thought I was God-fearing and a Christian, and I used to have conversations with other guys debating whether Christianity was real or whether atheism was real. I mean, these other guys, I would argue with these people, and I would tell them my side. You know, I grew up in the church, Sunday school, church. You know, that's how I grew up. From when I was a little boy, I was in Sunday school every weekend, and then later I was at church, and then I went into Marines, and I was still going to church sermons and stuff right up until a week before we left for Vietnam. And I came home still the same way, but I changed later. I had things in my life that happened to me that made me change.
We'll talk about that in a minute, but
outside of that's not even associated with military.
But still, how come, just along these lines, one quick question. How come some people go through something like you did in Vietnam and their faith gets stronger? How come other people go through something like that and their faith gets weaker?
You know, I don't know. I mean, I didn't really think about my faith while I was there. I didn't have time to think about that. When shit was hitting the fan, you're just thinking about surviving. I mean, you're just thinking about where can I go to get some cover, or where's it coming from, or what do I have to do? I mean, it's like you want to survive. That's instinct. I wanted to come home, but I didn't want to get maimed and come home. I had a fear of losing my limbs. And if I did, I didn't think I would come home. I didn't think I would allow myself to.
So 13 months, was that the normal length for a Marine?
That was the tour of duty at that time.
For the Marine?
I don't know about the Army. I didn't pay much attention to them. But 13 months for us was a tour of duty overseas, and then you'd rotate home. You'd come back for a year, and then you could go back overseas for another 13 months.
What rank were you during all this?
When I left Vietnam, I was still a PFC, and I'd been in for 3 years. I got out of the Marine Corps as an E5.
Are you in touch with any of your people that you served with over there?
I get a newsletter for an annual convention for my battalion. My battalion consisting of, from its inception to today, anybody that's in that battalion or has ever been in that battalion, welcome at the conventions. I've never gone. I wanted to, but it's in Washington, D.C. every December 11th. And I've just never been able to go there. I don't like to fly, and I don't want to drive places in the winter. I don't want to get in snow. I hate driving in snow, even though I'm raised in Colorado, and I know how. I don't like it.
So, I can understand that, but you were there 13 months, you come home. Do you remember your last day in Vietnam?
You bet.
Tell me about your last day.
Well, first thing we did was we had all of our gear packed and we had to turn in our rifles. And then we got on a 6x truck to take us to Da Nang Air Base, where we were going to fly to Okinawa. So we're in the back of this truck with no weapons. And we got to travel 18 miles to the air base. This is how far we had moved from the beginning until a year later when I'm coming home. So we're all in the back of this truck, we're kind of like, wow, I hope we don't get hit on, the only guy with a weapon's the truck driver. So, but we were crossing this bridge on the Da Nang River. It's a pretty wide river. And we were really an ornery group of guys, to put it lightly. And we saw this Vietnamese guy sitting in his hammock. It was a railroad trestle, and he had his hammock stretched between two of the things, and he's sitting on it. And we're right out in the middle over the river. And this other friend of mine named Ernie LeBlanc, and he's going home with me too. And we see this guy. And I says, hey, you see that guy in a hammock? And he goes, yeah, the truck's only going like 4 miles an hour going across this bridge. It's just wide enough for the truck. And he says, yeah. I says, I wonder if he can swim. We were just ornery. I mean, So he says, yeah, I wonder. So I said, watch this. And I got over to the side of the truck close to where he was. And when the truck got right by him, I turned around and I went to shove him off of his thing. And he grabbed on to something, and in the other hand, he had this pillow, and his hand came up. Ernie grabbed that pillow, and the guy held himself and didn't go in the water. In the meantime, the truck's still going. And Ernie's got this pillow. We're looking at it, and we're thinking, look at this. This is something you don't see here. I wonder where this guy got this. It's like silk, it's fancy. They don't have this. So Ernie goes, yeah, but what am I going to do with it? So I don't know, Ernie. I wonder if it floats. He goes, oh yeah. So he went out into the river. We didn't care. I mean, we were mean. Well, this guy, Vietnamese army guy, got really upset. Grabbed his rifle, jumped down off of his cot, and came down on us. And we're all swallowing our tongues like, oh no, not now. And we're on our way out of here. Not now. If we would have been armed, that guy would have been Swiss cheese. Just pointed his rifle at us, but we had no weapons. Fortunately, he didn't shoot. And we're like, when are we ever going to learn? We got to the airport, got on a Braniff Airlines yellow plane, and it was air conditioned. I remember that because we had acclimated to the heat in the country, and we got on this plane. It was 70 degrees, and we were all freezing. We all had blankets. They came past us, and we're all wrapped up in blankets, shivering in 70 degrees. The stewardesses are regular stewardesses, walking around sweating, and doing their job. And then the plane took off, and then was our next fear is, pray to God they don't hit this plane with a rocket. While we're on our way out to shoot the plane down. So our fear was until we got far enough away that we knew we were safe. And then finally it was like, wow. And then it was dead silence. All the way to Okinawa, nobody talked. And all I did was sit there and think about everything that I had just gone through. And I was like, it hit me. I was like, wow. I didn't even think about it at the time. And then on the plane, it was like a reality that I finally realized I did all that stuff, and I was almost in shock thinking about it. Then we landed in Okinawa, and that was the last day.
Then Okinawa to where? San Francisco?
A couple of days later, they got our gear that we had put in storage before we went to Vietnam. And then we got on another plane, and it flew to, we touched down in Guam, refueled, touched down in Honolulu, and refueled, and then landed in El Toro.
Was this before that anti-war sentiment was really?
No, it was going on. In fact, there were a whole group of us that had decided when we landed, we were all going to get 30 days leave, but before we went anywhere, we were all going to fly to San Francisco, and we were going to march up to Haight-Ashbury and just knock anybody walking in the streets on their ass. We were just going to go up there and start punching anybody. I mean, we resented what they were doing. I mean, we were like angry, and we were going to go get some revenge. But, you know, all of a sudden, you know, oh, I just want to get home, you know. Nobody went, but we were going to, that was in our plans. We were going to do that, like 6 of us. We were going to go give a little taste of the Marine Corps. But
did you have anybody get in your face during that time, spit on you?
Yeah, I got spit on by a girl in the airport, and I didn't do anything because it was a girl. You know, my philosophy is I don't fight girls. I don't care what they do. I don't fight them. You know, this is not a fair match. You know, and I can take anything they can dish out. I can handle it. You know, well, no girl's going to hurt me. I mean, bad enough to make any difference. So that was me. I wouldn't touch a woman. And, you know, I just walked away. You know, what am I going to do? I mean,
were you in the Corps another year?
Yeah.
So you were back from Vietnam. Were you?
I got stationed at Camp Pendleton in base telephone, which now I got a job as a regular telephone, like civilian telephones, dials, and all that sort of stuff. So I learned basically AT&T specifications, and the base functioned with that kind of a phone system. So I worked in that on the base for my last year.
So at what point in your life during that year or after you got out did you think or did you start feeling like you needed to talk to somebody, or did you? And secondly, did you feel like nobody would understand if you...
I didn't know what was going on, and it was 20 years later. You know, I wasn't the same. I mean, when I got off the plane, my family didn't know who I was. I mean, they recognized me, but I was a different person. I had a different personality. I mean, I was serious. I mean, I couldn't wait to come home. In reality, I never left. And it's been 50-something years, I don't know, and I'm still there. Every day. Every day.
You're in Vietnam.
I'm still there. Mentally, I never left.
You made a comment that the best part of you didn't come home. Expound on that.
No, I wasn't the same person. I was a different person. In the beginning, I still was acting out the attitude that we had. We were mean and evil people. And I was still mean and evil when I came home for the first couple of years. I got in fights with people for just looking across at me or saying something to me. I mean, I just snapped. And it was all it was a reaction of how we would react in combat. Instant reaction. No wait, no delay, you just like boom, and you snap. It took me a couple years to start calming down. And, you know, I would get on anybody's case for anything. Shine your bright lights on me, and I wanted to pick your ass. I mean, it's like, even when I happened one time when I was working, and I wasn't even driving, and the guy had his brights on, and I hung out to when it was a company car with company logos, and the guy had his brights on. I leaned out the window and started flipping him the bird and screaming at him. And I sat back down, and the car was loaded with other guys that I worked with, and they're all looking at me like, I'm looking like, yeah, I showed that guy. And they're like, the manager in charge of this, he says, do you realize what's all over the outside of this car? Company logo. And I felt like this big. And that's when I started thinking, starting to gain control of myself. But it took years before me to, I never really got over it, but I got more control. I still had the attitude. I have the attitude today, but I don't act on it because of my physical condition. I can't do much. You know, compared to back in the day, you know, I'm not just going to get in a fight with some young guy, get my ass kicked. You know, I'm a little more intelligent than that. But sure, still have the attitude.
A lot of people had a hard time transitioning back home. I mean, almost every Vietnam vet I talked to that was in combat has had a hard time.
There's a lot of things that stuck with me. For a couple of years, every time I'd get up to leave or go somewhere, I subconsciously looked for my rifle. And then, oh, wait, no rifle anymore. Driving through the country, checking the tree lines. It becomes second nature. You're looking for anything that's moving, anything that doesn't belong. I'm driving, I still do it on trips now. Whenever there's stuff on the side of the road, I'm scanning, I'm looking, I'm still subconsciously looking for trouble that's waiting for me. It became second nature. I lived a whole year. I got so used to being that way, it just never left me.
So to say what triggers this stuff, a lot of things, a smell, a sound, a loud sound.
I can go in an Asian market. The smell in there reminds me of fishy, the fish, whatever. It was in the air over there. I mean, the smell is something that you never forget. Sounds. God forbid a helicopter flies over. You know, I mean, the sound of a helicopter. 4th of July, fireworks. I worked on a job doing construction work, and we were working in a guy, and I had a nail gun that shot bullets and nails into the concrete, and he was behind me. Well, you're supposed to say something before you shoot. Well, this guy just shot. And he's like 4 feet behind me, and I just about took him off his ladder. I mean, I was like, I was around so fast, and it was like a bullet, a gunshot. And I gritted my teeth, and I said, you're supposed to say something before you shoot this damn thing. Mm-hmm. And I shoved him away, and the guy just, he didn't know what to say, I mean. But yeah. There's a lot of little things that you don't even think about that just second nature. I walk out to my car from the grocery store, and I get up to the car and I look in the glass to see if somebody's following me. I use it as a mirror. It's just automatic.
What have doctors or counselors told you over the years? Do they tell you to forget about it? But I've had some people say you can't ever forget about it.
No, I've never had anybody tell me that. In fact, I finally ended up in therapy in Oklahoma City. I think it was 8 hours a day. It was a group therapy. It was 6 weeks or 6 months. It was every day for a long time. And they wanted us to remember. And they wanted us to talk about it when we couldn't talk about it. And we had got to the point where we could finally start discussing. I would not have been able to tell you this story at one point without choking up. It was that therapy that allowed me to start. You know, I still have the feeling inside when I talk about things, you know, but I can control it. And I've gotten used to talking about it. I think that's what the therapy is. You repeat it over and over, day after day. You tell the same story again. All of us in the therapy, I think there were 7 or 8 of us, and we all had bad stories, and we all had to tell our own story. And then the others would, like, you know, listen, and then we'd console each other. And that we were a group, we became like brothers before it was all over.
Were there drugs in Vietnam when you were there?
There were, but since we were in the beginning, we weren't into drugs yet. In fact, we were so set against drugs that we were still thinking of the negative things that we were taught in high school, like show you a picture of a drug addict selling marijuana and he's an old man in a trench coat. And that's, you know, we were thinking marijuana was heroin. We were thinking one marijuana and you're strung out. We didn't know. We were uneducated. And so we were totally against it. In fact, we had a guy that came from the draft. We were taking 10% of the draft as replacements at one point, who had been a drug addict. And he got drafted. And they sent him to us in Vietnam. The guy should have been in rehab, not in Vietnam. What did he do? He deserted. He was living with the Vietnamese, getting high. And we found out where he was. Somebody saw him and told us. And his platoon sergeant went to that village, found him and arrested him. And on the way back, he told the truck driver to stop the truck. He got the guy out the back, set him at the side of the road and shot him with his shotgun. Put him back in the truck, went in and filled out a report at the company office that he resisted arrest. And the colonel signed it. That was the end of the story. And we were all, great, serve that son of a bitch right. We were so against it, we didn't understand. But he was an evil, bad person that deserved to die, and we didn't care. I mean, that kind of stuff happened. I don't remember the guy's name. I don't know who he is. I don't remember the sergeant's name that shot him. I mean, he murdered him. Got away with it.
We're going to wind down here. I want to ask you a couple of questions here. You served your country. Are you proud to be a Vietnam veteran?
Yes, I do it again. I don't believe in the war anymore. I now understand it was a mistake and it was a terrible loss. But if I were in the same situation, I would, even knowing, understanding what I went through, I would still go back. In fact, I would go in any combat before I would allow my son. That was my attitude. I'm not letting my son do what I had to do. But that never came up.
Have you ever been to the Vietnam Wall?
I went to the traveling wall a couple times.
What was that like?
Terrible. I broke up. Reality came back. I mean, it was, and those guys, I mean, I have 13 names on the wall that I went to see. And the number one guy was my best friend. And the second one was the guy that went out in my place and died.
You live with that your whole life, the survivor's guilt?
Yeah.
Why him and not me?
It should have been me. But he messed up. And he made a mistake that killed him, I wouldn't have made the same mistake. I knew better. There was a canvas bag that was at one time full of wire that was left as trash. They had put the booby trap under it, and he stepped on it. Man, you don't step on nothing. You don't kick a can. You don't walk where the dirt doesn't look right. I mean, you get so used to looking for this stuff. I mean, I knew better. He walked, our cable was laying in a grass field, and the field had caught fire and burned our cable. He walked right up to the edge to cut the wire, and we're going to splice new wire in and run and replace it with new wire. And he steps on this canvas bag. I would have never gone up to the edge. That was against, I mean, I don't know what he was thinking. We go 10, 20 yards back. We don't even go near that burn. We cut it, and then we don't go through it. We lay new cable around this whole thing. After he died, the sergeant was with him, our wire chief. He got hit by shrapnel from the booby trap, and he was thrown over, and then there was an ambush waiting for him. An ambush opened up. There were 4 guys in the ambush shooting at him. And the wire chief was there with 2 new guys that just got there. And they didn't even know what to do. They froze. And the sergeant got up, wounded, single-handedly charged the ambush, just ran right at him, just emptying magazine after magazine, fully automatic M14, just emptying it, and screaming like a crazy guy. And he ended that ambush. They want no part of him. They left. We're out of here now. That guy's crazy. He got a Silver Star for that. Purple Heart. He's non-combatant. He's our wire chief. He's the guy that tells you where to go in the morning and who's going to go here and who's. He wasn't even supposed to be out there. But nobody's ever immune from anything. You know, doing your job for 13 months is sort of like a carpenter going to be a framer every day for his job. It's just a matter of time before he's going to hit his thumb with the hammer. It's just a matter of time for us that's when we were going to bite the bullet. And you never knew when. It's the whole time you're ready. It's like it could be now. I didn't expect to come home, but I came home. And I was one of the few guys that, in my squad of 14 guys, I'm the only one that didn't get hit, at least once. Some of them 3 times. And they survived. Many of them didn't. But, you know, I was one of the few. I walked out, I felt so lucky because I didn't get hit. I had no idea I was messed up. I had no idea. I didn't know what was going to happen.
William, tell me what freedom means to you. You fought for your country. You look around today, kids don't know anything about freedom, a lot of them.
I was born
what is freedom
into freedom. I'm fortunate that this country, a free country, is where I was born and where I started my life. And I never knew anything but freedom. And I still don't, and I appreciate the country, the freedom that we have. And, you know, I'm terribly distraught over how divided it's become for nothing. I mean, it doesn't have to be this way. I mean, I grew up, I'm an old guy, I went through elections, and my guy didn't always get elected, you know, and I wasn't upset. I didn't like Kennedy. But he got elected, but he was my president after that, and I was upset when he was assassinated. And, you know, that's the way everybody was. You know, now he's going to be your guy for 4 years, but you don't want anything to happen to your president. He's your president, whether you like it or not. He's in charge of everything that keeps us the way we are. And you don't like him being president, there's another election coming, you vote for somebody else. That's what we did. And now look at the mess. I mean, I don't know what anybody's affiliation is. You know, people can believe what they want to believe, but this is not how our country was meant to be. I just want it to go back.
What does the American flag mean and represent to you?
It's a symbol of everything. It's a symbol of what we have, what we fought for. It's a symbol that says this is America. And we're America, and we're proud because we have what everybody else in the world wants. And we're fortunate. And we ought to be goddamn thankful for it. And if you're not, you have options. Go somewhere else. See if you like it. You know, you leave this country, you realize what we really have. I realized it when I was in Vietnam. I mean, to see, you know, other countries, what they have, how they live, how they survive. I mean, I was like, I couldn't believe it. People, most of the country lived in grass, hooches with no electricity, no water, no plumbing. I mean, they had a fire pit they cooked on. I mean, they ate rice and fish, and they didn't know what the meaning of a Tootsie Roll or a candy bar. You know, they'd never seen an electric light bulb. I mean, some of these people were so backward, they didn't even know what life was. We had all that. People don't realize how fortunate we are.
Are you married? Were you married?
I'm widowed now.
Okay. Kids? You have a son?
I have a son and a stepdaughter.
Okay. So life goes on. There's life after Vietnam?
Yeah, you keep doing what you do. You know, I think about it all the time, and you know, I'm 100% post-traumatic stress and 20% hearing loss. So I'm 120. But you only get 100. You know, they don't care. 100's enough. And now I'm on a CPAP. And you get another 50% for that. I don't know why. I don't care. You know, it's like, I just get up in the morning and go to bed at night and survive one day at a time.
Do people thank you for serving in Vietnam?
People do now.
How does that make you feel?
It's not necessary. I tell people I don't need your thanks. I said I did it. I was proud to do it. I didn't have to go. I was classified as a sole surviving son. You don't know if you know that. But I didn't have to go. I could have stayed and gotten out of it, but that wasn't me. Why do I deserve to get out of it and the rest of everybody that's my friends gets to go die? Why am I that privileged? So I went. I made the decision I'm going to go anyway. I didn't care if I was sole surviving son or not.
Well, your story is it's amazing, man. When I sit here and I listen to you, it's like you relive it in color, what you're telling me, and it never. I think there's either a book or a saying that once a warrior, wired for life. I mean,
I've never heard of it, but I'd have to agree. You know that it never goes away. Well, being there 13 months is too long. They've changed the tour of duty now in 6 months. You see these guys say, oh, I did 4 tours. Oh, okay. I did 1, but it was 3. You know, it's like, but it sounds so impressive. Oh, I did 4. And they're not there longer than 6, so they get to come back. So they don't really get as deep into the issues as you do when you stay longer. Because the longer you're in it, the more permanent it becomes. It's exactly what the word is, post-traumatic stress. Being stressed out for so long is what it is, and then it becomes permanent.
How old do you want to be?
110. There's a reason. My family lives to be real old, and I just want to beat them. My great-grandfather was 104, my grandmother was 101, my mom's going strong, she's 95. My grandmother's 4 sisters all were 99. So we have some kind of gene that, and so I'm thinking, well, I'm a competitive person. Everything is competition. Oh, I can be better than you, so I'm going to live to 110. Who am I going to tell? If I make it, there won't be anybody left for me to brag about. I'll even outlive my own son, probably. I mean, I think about it, but that's my sort of goal. Only if I can stay like I am. If I become a vegetable of some sort, then I don't want to stay. I want to live a life that has some meaning if I'm going to stay. So if I can continue to be sufficient, then yeah, 110, that's a good number. They're coming up with new cures every day for everything, it's like, maybe totally possible.
Yeah. I'm going to ask you to do one more thing, and then I'm going to take a picture of us, okay?
Sure.
At the end of all of my interviews, you've seen my interviews.
I have.
I asked the veteran to give a salute into the camera. Could you do that when I ask you?
Sure can.
Okay. Just look right into the camera, William. If you want to say something, just give me a salute, please. Perfect. Perfect.